Who's the most annoying? Whose room is the messiest? Who complains the most? Who takes longer to get ready? Who's most likely to be single forever? Who's most likely to get arrested?
What?
Who's the favorite child?
What?
Who could get away with murder? Who would get a divorce in less than a week of their marriage? Who's most likely to become a nun? Who is most likely to date two guys at once? Who is most likely to become a stripper? Who is most likely to get the most tattoos? Who is most likely to become a wrestler? Who is the best liar? Who is most likely to do weird things in public? Who is most likely to die of something stupid? Who is most likely to meet a ghost? Who is most likely to have two boyfriends at one time? Who is most likely to not shower for a week? Who is most likely to date their boss? Who is most likely to fart in public?
Yeah.
Who's the most likely to date a celebrity? Who's the most likely to do weird things in public?
Hilarious. I'm over it.
Who's the most likely to get away with murder? Who's the most likely to laugh at the worst time? Who's the most likely to date a woman? Who's the most likely to say something else?
Is it over?
Who's the most likely to be late to their own wedding?
Who's the thickest? Who's most likely to get arrested? Who's the craziest? Who's the most popular? Who gets the most attention from other guys? Who has the best taste in guys? Who's the sensitive one? Who's the meanie? Who's the prettiest? Who's the best at advice? Who's the best dancer? Who's got the best style? Who's the smartest?
Who's most likely to dad and daughter edition? Who is most likely to survive a shark attack?
Who's messier?
Who has the better style?
Who cries more?
Who has the worst attitude?
Who laughs the loudest?
Who's more likely to get married first?
Who's most likely to move out of state?
Who's the meanest?
Who eats more?
Who will have kids first?
Who's most likely to sneak out?
Who's more likely to give all their money to charity?
Who's most likely to marry a celebrity?
Who's most likely to always be the happiest?
Who's most likely to become a millionaire?
Who is most likely to jump out of an airplane?
Who will have more boyfriends in their lifetime?
Who's most likely to wreck a vehicle?
Who got the most whoopings growing up? Who got in the least amount of trouble growing up? Who is the rebel child? Who made better grades in school? Who talked back more? Who is the funniest? Who is the most expensive child? Who is more financially responsible? Who goes out more? Who spends the most money on unnecessary things? Who will get married first? Who will have kids first? Who has the most style? Who has had the most boyfriends or girlfriends? Who is the meanest? Who is the loudest? Who is the sneakiest? Who is more caring? Who is the overdramatic one? Who is the overprotective one? Who will be the last to leave the house after they're grown? Who will put y'all in a nursing home?
Who is more likely to do weird things in public? Who is more competitive? Who is more likely to kill someone accidentally? Who is more likely to fall for a scam?
Oh no.
Who is more gangster? Who is more likely to die of something stupid?
Do I? Stupid? Me?
Who is more likely to die of something stupid?
Me.
Who is more likely to embarrass themselves in front of their crush? Who is better at sports? Who's more likely to get into a fight? Who is more likely to meet a ghost? Who is more likely to talk to animals? Who would last longer in a zombie apocalypse? Who is more likely to get fired from their job? Who owns more clothing? Who is the most kind-hearted?
Who's the thickest? Who's most likely to get arrested? Who's the craziest? Who's the most popular? Who gets the most attention from other guys? Who has the best tasting guys? Who's the sensitive one? Who's the meanie? Who's the prettiest? Who's the best at advice? Who's the best dancer? Who's got the best style? Who's the smartest?
Who's most likely to have more than 5 kids? Who will get married first? Who's smarter? Who's most likely to drop a silent but deadly? Who would give all their money to charity? Who's messier? Who spends the most money? Who's most likely to shave their head? Who's funnier? Who's better at makeup? Who's most likely to fall down the stairs? Who has better style? Who's the best at TikTok? Who stays up later? Who's the loudest? Who has the cuter room? Who's crazier? Who is the worst driver? And who's the favorite?